Hello everyone, thanks for coming back. Or if it's your first time clicking on my video, thanks for checking it out. Just so you know, I'm a random dude. I enjoy true crime. I enjoy watching trials. I just figured I'd put my opinion out there in case anybody gave a shit. So, if you're feeling inclined, please hit that like button. I know it's fucking stupid. I know you hate hearing it every time, but it really does help. Also, please consider subscribing. I'm going to be doing a weekly breakdown of the trial of Lucy Letby happening in the UK. Remember, Lucy has not been found guilty and everything is allegedly. These are going to be my own words and my interpretation of the trial going on. This is going to be for entertainment purposes only. So, week three. Week three begins October 24th. This week is going to be the unnamed nurse continuing her testimony to the case of child B. She describes how the baby was doing well and there was nothing of concern going on with her. She tells of how the alarm for the baby went off and how Lucy was quick to the bedside, and when she got there, the baby had looked similar to her brother did the night before, with as far as the discoloration and the purple bluish blotches. Luckily, they were able to get a breathing tube inserted in time, and the baby made a full recovery. She was later discharged about a month later. Next up is Dr. Ravi Jayaram. He talked about how the baby was in stable condition and then suddenly took a turn for the worse. Defense questioned him about why he left out certain details about the discoloration from his notes and his police report. The doctor told him he did not appreciate how important it would later become after seeing it with other situations of babies passing away. Next, the jury heard from a pediatric consultant and how she was called from home the night baby B collapsed, but by the time she arrived, she was back to being in stable condition. Dr. Dewey Evans came back for the case of child A. He has written a few different reports about the babies. He became involved back in 2017. The National Crime Agency had called him. He tells how, in his opinion, he found a pattern in the cases because of the unusual things happening. He said how he was never notified about the discoloration, so he based his conclusion off other factors, but when he did hear of the discoloration, it just further cemented his opinion. Then they brought in Dr. Sandy Bohan. She was tasked with doing a peer review on Dr. Evans' reports. She agreed with his findings as far as the case of child A. After that, Dr. Evans was brought back to talk about child B. He talked about how good she was doing and how in stable condition, and then tells how she just randomly collapsed for seemingly no reason. His opinion was it was either an air embolus or she was smothered, but he had pretty much ruled out all other possibilities where this type of thing is seen, such as infections, problems with the lungs, sepsis, because her x-rays showed nothing wrong. While the defense was questioning them, he told Mr. Myers that when he was brought in, he knew nothing of the Countess or of the staff. He had never heard the name Lucy Letby until after his reports. Prosecution brought back in Dr. Sandy Bohan again to talk about child B. She confirms she has read everything about the baby and tells again how, she had the expected issues but was being watched closely and there was nothing that would lead to a sudden deterioration. She explains and shows the jury what a long line is and how it's inserted and the things to do for safety reasons to prevent anything like an air embolus happening. Intelligence analyst Claire Hocknell is back. She's going to clarify a few minor corrections that needed to be made as far as different typos, and on the text messages they had some of the names mixed up. And then the prosecution, Nick Johnson, reads a summary police interview with Lucy from 2018 after her first arrest. Lucy basically gave her side of the story, everything that's been talked about so far pertaining to child A and B. She did not admit to anything, and she denies she hurt either of the babies. After they read the police report, they started talking about child C. It was a baby boy born June 10th, 2015. They first read a statement from the parents telling their side of things from the time at the hospital and how the baby was born super small, weighing only 800 grams, 1.7 pounds. The parents both detail circumstances of when the baby had collapsed on June 14th and how the coroner's office from Alder Hay had called them and told them it was natural causes at the time. Kate Tyndall takes the jury through the events of child C next. They show texts from Lucy to other nurses and to her mom, saying how it was hard dealing with another baby dying and how she needed to throw herself back into work to help get her mind off things. Then the jury is shown records, nursing shifts for the time of when the baby passed. Dr. Sally Ogden comes back for child C, and she details the records and how the baby was doing during and after birth, saying how even though he was tiny, he was in stable condition. Countess of Chester is only a level 2 neonatal unit, so there was discussions about transferring him to Liverpool Women's Hospital since they are rated for taking care of babies in need of more serious help. But ultimately, he stayed at the Countess. Mr. Myers from the defense goes over the baby and how he was at higher risk for infections and other complications, pretty much because he was so small. And the doctor goes through how they were watching him for NEC. NEC stands for necrotizing enterocolitis. Necrotizing enterocolitis. I can't say it. It's a condition that can cause preterm babies to have intestinal problems where the tissue dies. Dr. Gail Beach came next to give evidence. She is a registrar and helped take care of the baby and parents. She was the one to insert the long line for child C and told how they were watching him for infection, but overall he was in good shape until the sudden collapse. The deputy in charge of the neonatal unit that night, Yvonne Griffins, a senior nurse, talked about child C and how he was on the CPAP machine and then transferred to a less invasive breathing support. She talked about the long line and how when they inserted a gastric tube, he had dark bile come out, and that's the reason they were watching him for the NEC. Another neonatal nurse, Joanne Williams, was child C's designated nurse the night he died. She went over everything they previously discussed again and said how he was pretty much in stable condition. Then Sophie Ellis comes in and talks about how the baby's readings and charts. She was in the room when the baby had his episode. She tells the jury how she stepped out of the room for something, and then her alarm's going off, so she rushed back in, and when she got there, Lucy was standing over the incubator, and then she says she got overwhelmed and asked Lucy to take over helping with the resuscitation efforts, along with Nurse Taylor. Then they bring in Nurse Taylor to give her recollection of the events. She goes over everything again, and again says how when she arrived, Lucy was with the baby. That is the end of this week. So please remember, these charges are all allegedly. Lucy has not been found guilty. Please consider hitting the like button for me. I know you don't like hearing it every time, but it really does help. Also, please consider subscribing. I'm going to keep going through these and doing quick little recaps each week. I might just do the longer videos anyway, just to have up in a playlist. So if anybody feels like listening to me ramble on for a while about these trials, they have that option. But don't forget to tell me what you think about Lucy in the comments. If you think that she did this, or if the hospital's just using her for a scapegoat. All right, everybody, take care.